Welcome back, fam. Let's see if I get this light correct. Welcome back. Shabbat Shalom to you. Welcome back, my brothers and sisters who have returned to continue our Bible study in Romans chapter 11, 11th division of this letter that the Apostle Paul was used to write to the Roman converts to the nation of Israel under Messiah. You see, brothers and sisters, let me explain. There are nation of Israel. The Bible, we talked about ad nauseum in the last section about the promises being to Israel. Okay. But we also saw the night before last night, we studied about even though Israel is chosen, it's a remnant of them, a remnant of the bloodline that's going to be the chosen ones. And so the majority of the bloodline even is going to be lost because of their rejection of the Hebrew Messiah. And so that being the case, the Apostle Paul is highlighting the remnant. He's highlighting the remnant, and he's writing about the Gentiles that will be saved being grafted into that remnant. So he's writing to Romans who are converts to the remnant followers of Messiah. Y'all understand that? Okay. So they're converts to the remnant of Israel. And they're converts to the remnant of the true chosen people that we gave 7 witnesses to in the last study. Also, they are grafted into that Hebrew remnant, as we're going to read today. So the Gentiles that are saved are able to partake in the promises of Israel because they are grafted into Israel. It's very important to understand that. It's not because they're starting their own form of religion. Gentiles are not grafted in because they're starting their own form of religion. And what am I alluding to? Christianity. Christianity is a Gentile own form of religion, an offshoot of the chosen people. And because it is an offshoot of the chosen, an offshoot of the beliefs of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they have a name of it called Christianity. They have their own image of Messiah in their own image. They have their own rules. They only read part of the Bible. And they declare themselves to be spiritual Israel, the new Israel. So this is all out of the imagination of their own heart. And actually, the Bible calls it gall and wormwood. Deuteronomy chapter 29, as well as Revelation chapter 9. It's called gall and wormwood. Actually, it's Revelation chapter 8. It's called gall and wormwood because it's after the imagination of their own heart. It is not based on the truth of the word of the Most High. So Paul, in writing to Gentiles, and we're in Romans now, but it could be Galatians or Colossians or Ephesians or the Thessalonians. It could be any of them. He's writing to Gentiles and he's writing to Hellenists that have been either converted into the remnant nation of Messiah's nation, Israel, or awakening to who they were as bloodline, but just living as heathen. Okay, which again, we can also be considered like Hellenists as we are in our enemy's land, thinking we are them. When we're not, we're clearly not. And why do I say clearly? No matter how much people try to tell you, and let's just take the United States of America, of which I'm a citizen, but I think this could be said of any children nation that is founded or led or controlled by the children of Yafet. As much as they try to tell us in the United States we're all equal, are the bloodline Hebrews treated the same as the children of Yafet in the United States of America as a whole? Like, you can find instances where there's fairness given, but that's the exception. That's not the rule. That actually proves the rule. So, and let's make it even plainer. So if I say, the black man in America is not treated the same way as the Caucasian man in America, am I speaking a truth? if I was to say that the history of the black man in America is completely different than the history of the Caucasian man in America, am I speaking the truth? Yet we are constantly being told we're all equal. So what we're being told then is at best a hope, but at worst an outright lie, right? It's at best a hope, like they're hoping it could come to pass, but at worst they're just lying to us and lying to themselves. We're not treated equal. Therefore, we can't really say we're the same Americans as the Caucasians. We're treated differently on every level. Caucasians did not have to march to get the right to vote. Caucasians never had their neighborhoods arranged in such a way that they can be flooded with drugs and destroyed from within. Caucasians never suffered the 3-strike law the way we have, by far. Look up the documentary called 13th, 1-3-th. The documentary called 13th gives you the stats on who suffered as a result of the 3-strike law and why it was put into place. Nobody in the United States has suffered like the black man. Nobody has. And I'm just telling you the truth about it. So to claim that we're all equal is at best a self-deception. And at worst, just a plain lie. Because it's not the same. And that's biblical. That's biblical. It was prophesied that we would not be treated the same. The problem is with people that want to believe that we're all the same. I'm talking about from among the Israelites. Yeah, we're all the same. We all get treated the same. No, we don't. As a whole, we do not. That's why there was such a thing as civil rights, which really don't help us, but that's what created as a result of the inequality that we have suffered. And even civil rights has been exploited and has exploited us and has put false leaders up in front of us as if they're leading us somewhere when they're not leading us anywhere. And you want to be honest and truthful, that is the truth. Okay? So the Bible shows us, though, about who we really are and who the remnant really is and how Gentiles can be converted into that scattered nation of remnant that are now in their enemies' lands. Okay? And Paul is writing to those people. He is not writing to Christians. There is no such religion in the Bible as Christianity. It does not exist in the pages of Holy Writ. It only exists in the minds of those who created it. When we understand, especially, now I implore all people to understand this, but especially the bloodline Hebrews. I implore the Gentiles, all the peoples, the Hamites, to understand what I'm about to say, but especially the Hebrews. The thing that has been the greatest detriment to us, what has kept us brainwashed and fooled and believing fairy tales and lies the longest, is the belief in white Jesus. That has been used to keep us mentally enchained, mentally captive, believing fairy tales and lies. It all starts with white Jesus. Santa Claus starts with white Jesus. The Easter Bunny starts with white Jesus. Okay? It all starts, and we've all been brainwashed into mental slavery, that's right, by white Jesus. When you understand that, you can begin to be free, because reading this Bible, understanding there's no white Jesus, opens your eyes to a lot of things. When you're reading this book with the understanding that there's no white Jesus, that he's a black man what we would consider today. Some people, again, they go so far to defend themselves. Well, he's really not black. He's kind of tan. They go so far to defend themselves. Yet me, as a tan black man, walking to the wrong neighborhood in the wrong time, in a white neighborhood, I can be arrested, placed with my hands behind my back, and thrown on the ground. It's happened to me because I'm not telling you something I'm making up. Yeah, he's olive color. Don't sugarcoat the truth, y'all. Y'all know he's a black man. The children of Israel were made up of black people, and he's a black man, just like me. No, he's not olive color. He's a black man. Be real. See, so far people go to try to defend themselves and to try to justify, that's the term I'm looking for, to try to justify the falsehoods that have been placed out there for 500 years, that they'll use these terms to try to justify themselves. Brothers and sisters, we're living in the time of Earth's history where you either all in on the truth or you're not. You cannot be straddling the fence on truth. If you're going to be in truth, you better be all in, or you're not in at all. You can't be halfway in. It's like saying, can a woman be halfway pregnant? Can she be partially pregnant? Either she's pregnant or she's not. That's the same with truth. Either you all in or you're not. Period. End of story. Okay? End of story. So the truth is that the Messiah is a black man, and he comes from a nation of black men. That the true Hebrews are all what we would consider today in the common Eurocentric vernacular, we would consider them black. Not European, not sons of Japhet, black. Some of them real black, like the prophet Niger in Acts. So black, they call them black. And we do that even today. Those of you know, you grow up in neighborhoods with black people, you have nicknames for everybody. You know we tell them the truth. You got nicknames for everybody. You all black. But my man, I know to this day, we call him Smoke. Because he was black. He was dark. We call him Smoke. Not that he was not black and all of us was not black or whatever. We was all black. But he was dark, so we called him Smoke. Some brothers we just call black. Like Niger in Acts. His brother was dark, so they just said black. Niger. Okay? So that doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. You see, so there's black and then there's black, right? And we understand the difference. It's like we was talking about before. If we grow up and it's natural for us to say, yo, what's up, cousin? Don't we? Did somebody have to teach you to say that? Or did it come natural to you? Say, yo, what's up, cuz? What's up, cuz? And you know why? Because we're all cousins. Distant cousins, we're the nation. Okay? Same nation. Cuz. Messiah is our cuz. By blood. He's our cuz. Okay? By blood. So people try to deny truth and try to sugarcoat it. But we're not here in these last days to sugarcoat. We're here to expose lies and speak straight truth. Straight truth. Because Messiah did not sugarcoat his message to Laodicea, did he? In Revelation chapter 3, Messiah did not sugarcoat his message to the Laodiceans. The Laodiceans exist right now as the Philadelphians are trying to reach them through the Messiah. And in Revelation chapter 3, let's look at the message. from verse 14 down to verse 22. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen. Telling you something right there. The faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of Yah. I know thy works, thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. That word spew means vomit, like you making him sick with your sugar-coated truths. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, he's giving it straight, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. He ain't sugarcoating. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mightest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear. And anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. This message is to the true Hebrews that are still in Babylon. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. See, he's not sugarcoating his message to the last people that are still in Babylon. He's telling you straight how it is. But today, we have been so brainwashed by Christianity and white Jesus that everything is sugarcoated. Everything is soft and flowery, including the Messiah himself. And let me tell you something. This brother is not soft nor flowery. Not in the truth. No, he's not. Romans chapter 11. How did we finish? Well, this is how we're going to begin. Romans chapter 11. I'm going to start at verse 4 and go down from there. So I'm going to start at verse 4, and I'm going to go down from verse 4 to verse 7. Romans chapter 11, from verse 4 to 7. But what saith the answer of Yah unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so then, at this present time also, there is a remnant according to the election of grace. And if by grace, then it is no more of works. Otherwise, grace is no more grace. But if it be of works, then it is no more grace. Otherwise, work is no more work. What then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. The election is like what we've been talking about. The remnant have obtained the blessing. And the blessing given is not because of our works. It's because of Father Yah's mercy and grace. We have been called into existence at this time by the Father. It's not because we're smart. It's not because we're more intelligent than everybody else or we have a higher IQ. No. It's because of grace and mercy. We've been called to receive the message of the true Hebrews by grace and mercy. We're being called to recognize who we are and to see ourselves in the Bible for the position that we're really in by grace and mercy. Remember what he said in Ezekiel. Let's review real quick that one couple of verse in Ezekiel, what he said and why he's doing this. Ezekiel chapter 36. If you remember, we read it earlier this morning. Ezekiel chapter 36. I'm going to start at verse 22. Ezekiel 36, verse 22 and 23. Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 22 and 23. Therefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith the Most High Yahweh. Notice what it says. I do not this for your sakes. Do not what? O house of Israel, but for my holy name's sake, which ye have profaned among the heathen, whither ye went, for his holy name. That's by grace, brother. That's mercy and grace. That's not because we earned anything. For I will sanctify my great name, which is profaned among the heathen, whither ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, saith the Most High Yahweh, and I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. So we have been called forth for this time by the grace of the Most High. We have been called forth because his word will come to pass as he spoke it. We have been called forth. We are the bloodline, not because we earned being the bloodline, because he is setting us apart, sanctifying us for his holy name's sake. And in the same way, he's calling forth those that are non-bloodline from among the heathen for his holy name's sake. If you understanding these truths, it's not because you're smart. It's not because you're more intelligent than the people around you, your peers. If you are understanding and receiving these truths by conviction of the Spirit, it is by conviction of the Heavenly Father that is touching you. For no man, Messiah said, can come to be except my Father draw him. If you are being convicted that what I'm saying is true from the word of the Most High, it's not because I am a great preacher or teacher. It's because the Father's Spirit is touching you. He is calling you, and he's doing it for his holy name's sake, because he's going to use you to exalt his holy name of perfect righteousness. He's redeeming us from the flames for his holy name's sake. All glory and honor and praise and blessing be to Father Yahweh and to his Son, the Lamb, Yahweh Shah. That's right. We didn't choose Father Yah. He chose us. And we answered his call by our choice. Don't ever think you're just smarter and everybody else is stupid. That's the way Asatan thinks. He thinks he's the smart one and everybody else is stupid. And that's how all his followers think. Oh, they know what they're doing. They're getting over and nobody can see what they're doing. No, Father sees everything. And for his holy name's sake, he has called us forth at this time for his purpose. Okay. That's what this is about. So he said there's 7,000. He said that he still has 7,000, the seven perfect number. He has 7,000 according to the election of grace. And he said, what then? Verse 7. Verse 7, Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. So there's a remnant that received Messiah as Messiah, and the rest were blinded. And Messiah said, wrath is going to come on this people. In Luke chapter 21, he said, wrath is going to come on this people. And that's exactly what has happened to us. And he also said, he's going to call us at the end in the latter days. We read it in Leviticus. He's going to call us in the latter days. And that's exactly what he's done. And here we are, the bloodline awakening to who we are. You see, brothers and sisters, and don't worry about people that don't believe what you're saying. Don't worry about people who don't agree with what you're saying. Don't worry about people who laugh at what you're saying, because it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Just like no one can stop the sun from rising tomorrow. No matter, they can laugh at it, they can joke about it, they can do what they want. It's going to rise and it's going to set. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can stop the phases of the moon from being the phases of the moon. And the Bible says if you can't stop that, you cannot stop his word from coming to pass. That's why you don't need to argue with nobody. You don't need to fight with nobody about it. You don't need to try to suggest or to drag somebody in. No, if they're called, they'll come. Our job is just to cast the line into the sea, cast the net into the sea. The fish that come are of Father Yah. Our job is just to wear righteousness, and that righteousness calls those who are called. You can't convince somebody that's destined for the fire to not go. They're going to go. Just like when I was hooked on stuff or hooked on sin, nobody can convince me. When I wanted to commit adultery, nobody could say, don't do it, brother, it's wrong, except Father. He's the only one that could stop me from doing what I was going to do. And it's the same with anything. If a crackhead wants the pipe, you can't stop him. He's going to get it. Okay? It's only from within a change that has to happen, that can only happen by the Father's Spirit, by the higher power, as they call it, that can cause somebody that's headed toward one way to stop. Okay? Only that power. And so that's grace, that's mercy, that's a spirit of perfect righteousness that causes us to turn. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. And it's us, when we admit that we struggle with these sins, that gives Father glory. Why? Because we're saying we don't have the power, Father. And if we overcome it, it's because you gave it to us. If we didn't do it, it's because you stopped us. The glory goes to the Father. I hear people, I was listening to this lady, she lost a lot of weight. She lost over 100 pounds following a certain diet. And she's like, I'm here to tell you, you could do it yourself. And I said, you see, now you're destined to mess yourself up. Because now you're just preaching the devil's doctrine. You don't even know what you're doing. That's what happens. A lot of people don't know what they're doing. They're preaching the devil's doctrine. Man is God. I lost this weight because I did it. It's within me. No. When a Hebrew understands, like if I was to lose 100 pounds and I lost weight and got in shape, it ain't because I decided to do it. Father Yah did it. If I make mistakes, that's on me. Father is unerring. He makes no mistakes. He speaks no lies. Okay? He speaks no lies. He's perfect in light and righteousness. He that cometh to Yah must believe that he is. And that includes everything I just said. To say you believe Father exists means you believe his perfect righteousness exists, his eternal wisdom exists, his perfect level of understanding of all things exists. And if you believe that, you're following the only true God. Okay? And if you believe that, you can't be down but for so long. You're gonna go, we all go through struggle periods. We struggling with something, we struggling emotionally, we struggling, financially, we struggling. But it's not gonna last long. They only got you for a little while. See, matter of fact, let me give you another witness. We talked to him earlier. Let's revisit our brother Malachi. No, Micah. Let's visit our brother Micah. Micah chapter 7. Micah chapter 7. We're going to come back. That was the one where he says he's going to have mercy on Jacob and cast Jacob's sins into the depths of the sea. Remember that one? Micah's powerful, man. So notice what Micah said here in the same chapter 7. Micah chapter 7. I'm going to start at verse 7. And I'm going to go from verse 7 to verse 9. This is a powerful promise, brethren. Y'all suffering with stuff. Y'all struggling with something. Micah chapter 7 from verse 7 to 9. Therefore, I will look unto Yahweh. I will wait for the Most High of my salvation. My Most High will hear me. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, Yahweh shall be a light unto me. I will bear the indignation of Yahweh, because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. Yes, if I make a mistake, I got to suffer for it. But till he plead my cause. and execute judgment for me. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. All glory and honor and praise to Father Yah. Always, all the time. Let's continue. And to his son, Messiah Yahushua. Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11. So our fathers that did not receive the Messiah were blinded. Okay. And it was prophesied. Again, let's start at verse 7 and go from verse 7 down to verse 11. Romans chapter 11 from verse 7 to 11. What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. According as it is written, Yah hath given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear unto this day. And that, just to let you know, that's Isaiah 29. He's quoting Isaiah. He's quoting our brother Isaiah again, Isaiah 29. And David said, let their table be made a snare, and a trap, and a stumbling block, and a recompense unto them. Let their eyes be darkened that they may not see, and bow down their back always. I say then, again, he's quoting Psalms there. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Yah forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. And remember, he said that earlier through one of his prophets, I'm going to provoke them to jealousy by them which are not a people. Moses said that. I'm going to provoke them to jealousy by them which is not a people. That's the coming of the Gentiles. Okay. The Gentiles receive salvation, and in part that salvation is used to provoke the true Israelites to jealousy. So I think it is Psalm 33, but I think it is, brother. I think it is. That quote was from, oh man, where was that quote? Psalm 69. I think it's Psalm 69. He's talking about Akawa. I think it's Psalm 69. Akawa, but yeah, I think it's Psalm 69 that he's quoting there in verse 9 and 10. So he comes to this conclusion. He says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Yah forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation is come to the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. So the fall of the Israelites that have rejected Messiah was to open up space so that Gentiles can be grafted into the nation, to provoke the fallen to jealousy. And I ask you a question. Are Israelites in the United States, again, I can't speak for all over the earth. Some of y'all can, because some of y'all are all over the earth. But are Israelites in the United States being provoked to jealousy by those that are not a people? Are we being provoked to jealousy because we can't get ahead like they can? Are we being provoked to jealousy because we can't get the same privileges and rights and wealth that they can? Yes, we are. And that's by design. So instead of trying to be like them, we should be, the design was for us to seek our God, to return to him. And you can only do that when you have the understanding of who you are and who they are. Remember, brethren, we live in a Eurocentric system. The system was not built by Hebrews, and it was not built for the prosperity of the Hebrew. It was built for the prosperity of those who created it. Let me say that again. The system that we're in was built for the prosperity of those that created it. The dollar bills that we get paid in was built or made for those that created those dollar bills, not for us. We live in this system. We're born into this system, but don't ever think the system was made for you to prosper. Our prosperity comes from our Heavenly Father, and he could prosper us in any kind of way he feels like. But really, it's for us to obtain perfect righteousness. That's the greatest prosperity of all. Nothing beats a human being filled with the perfect spirit of the Father. guided by eternal wisdom. Nothing beats that. And money is not an object when that is your state. Money is not a thing because you're thinking farther term than today. Even this life, you're thinking eternal terms. And understanding that those dollar bills are going to be burned up like all the trees. Okay? So he said, is to provoke them to jealousy. Verse 12, he asks a question. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? Now, that's a very powerful question. So he's saying, if our fall blesses the Gentiles, and let's think of it this way. The cotton business, the sugar business, which is huge, right? The sugar business, even to this day, is multi-billion dollar business. Everything has sugar in it, and it was built on our backs. The sugar business, the tobacco business, right? The tobacco business, the cotton business, built on our backs. The railroads, built on our backs. I know Chinese people say we was there too. Yes, y'all was, but y'all was being paid. Let me reiterate that. Y'all was being paid. We weren't. They put us in chains. They took us out of jail to build them railroads. Okay? Y'all was being paid. At least you had, and I'm not saying y'all got rich off it, but y'all was being paid. We were not being paid. We were being whipped. So the railroad transportation system, the cotton system, everything made from cotton or blended with cotton, the sugar system, everything that has sugar in it, and the tobacco system built billionaires, and we were the workers. We built those industries literally on our backs. And so our enslavement blessed the world. And he asked, what about our fullness? Well, what does that mean? Well, think about it. If we accomplish, or should I say, come to the realization of the Father's word that he's going to establish Israel as the center of the earth, that New Jerusalem with David on the throne is going to be the powerful country on the world, and that all of the Israelite people will be leaders of the earth in perfect righteousness, will the earth be blessed? Will the earth be blessed? There'll be a world with no more death. How much more their fullness? There'll be a world with no more death. There'll be a world with no more pain. There'll be a world where nobody's trying to kill somebody. There'll be a world where nobody's being evil against another person. That's the fullness of the Israelites. He said, if this part blesses you Gentiles, if beating us in our backs and putting us in chains, and if that blesses y'all with the sugar and the tobacco and the railroads, if that blesses y'all, what's going to happen when we reach our fullness? When we rise, and as Ezekiel said, the Father is sanctified in us before your eyes. What's going to happen then? There'll be no more pain. There'll be no more death. There'll be no more sorrow. There'll be no more suffering. The former things will be passed away. The old things will not be remembered nor come to mind. All the child rape and molestation will have been taken care of. There'll be no more sexual perverts. There'll be no more drugs, no more need for hospitals or jails, no more. That's the fullness. That's the fullness. That's what happens. So if the castration of us cause y'all to be enriched, what happens when we reach our fullness? Well, it's a new kingdom then. That's why the disciples asked Messiah, wilt thou at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? Because that would be a righteous kingdom, the only righteous kingdom on the planet that ever existed nor ever will exist. And it's not going to be Daniel said it will not be left to other people, but it shall last forever. And then he reiterated it, forever and ever. There'll be no end to it. That's our fullness. That's when we reach our fullness. And it starts now, here in the spirit, with a new spirit and a new heart that the Father promised us. It starts here now by his grace with the power of righteousness. See, I can talk about grace and mercy in the full context of the Bible without talking about doing away with Father's law. You hear that? I could talk about grace and mercy from the word of the Most High without talking about nailing Father's law to Jesus' cross, right? I could talk about grace and mercy in the true chosen people of Yah and not try to say all Gentiles are going to be lost. You hear that? Because that's the truth. Okay? That's the truth. Let's continue. Romans chapter 11, verse 13. We know we're taking our time here because this is the conclusion of what he's been building up to from chapter 9. Okay? Romans chapter 11, verse 13. For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. So he's making it plain. I'm talking to you Gentiles who have been granted partaking with us bloodline, with us remnant, which is Yahweh's church. He said, upon this rock, I will build my church. And he wasn't talking about no building with a cross on it, with a bunch of pews in it. He wasn't talking about that. He's talking about his nation. Upon this rock, I'm going to build my nation, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. It's a scattered nation. And he is building it himself as the chief cornerstone. Wasn't Peter? Oh my gosh, man. Some of the blasphemies. Please, brothers and sisters, read your Bible. And when you start at Genesis and read through, and when you finish by the grace of Father Yah, read it again. Okay. So he said, I'm speaking to you Gentiles, and as much as I'm the apostle of the Gentiles. He's admitted. See, there's only 12 apostles. How do I know that? How many foundations is there in the New Jerusalem? And he says the foundations have the name of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. There's only 12 apostles. People running around calling themselves apostles need to stop. Ain't but 12 apostles. He said there's 12 gates for the 12 tribes, and there's 12 foundations for the 12 apostles. And Paul just said he was an apostle. There's no 13 apostles. There's 12 of the Lamb called by him personally. Okay, so he's the apostle to the Gentiles. Okay, just as he said himself, Peter, James, and John were the apostles to the Hebrews. The apostles sent specifically to the Hebrews. So when you're reading John, when you're reading 1 John, when you're reading Revelation, when you're reading 1st and 2nd Peter, when you're reading James, when you're reading Hebrews, just like now we're reading a letter written to Gentiles converted to the Messiah, the Hebrew Messiah. In those letters, you're reading Hebrews, bloodline converted to the Hebrew Messiah, their own Messiah. Remember that when you're reading these letters. Okay, most people don't catch it because these men were called specifically for the bloodline. Okay, why do you think Peter talks about the sprinkling of the blood of the Messiah? A holy priesthood he talks about. Why do you think he's talking about it? Huh? Why do you think John writing in Revelation about the 12 apostles of the Lamb and the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem? Come on. Okay, so here's Paul. He said, I'm speaking to you Gentiles, because he's the apostle of the Gentiles, the Hebrew Israelite sent man to the Gentiles. Praise the Most High. All right, verse 14. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them. So his goal here is to provoke them to come to the Hebrew Messiah. You remember what Agrippa said to him? You almost persuade me to become a Christian. That's what they said. That's what he says. One of the 3 times in the Bible you'll see the word Christian. He said, Paul, you're mad. You're beside yourself. You almost persuaded me to become a Christian. And Paul didn't say, I want you to become a Christian. Because Agrippa was familiar with Hebrew. He might even be of the bloodline. And he said, He said, King Agrippa, I wish that everyone under the sound of my voice can be altogether as I am, except for these bonds. Because he had chains on. He said, except for these bonds. He didn't say, yes, you should become a Christian. Because that's not what he called himself. He just called himself an Israelite of the tribe of Benjamin, of the seed of Abraham. He said, I am the apostle to the Gentiles. Did he say anything about being a Christian? Let's continue. He wants to emulate, he wants to provoke to emulation those of his flesh, to jealousy, same word. Verse 15. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? Again, the receiving in the fullness of the chosen bloodline means salvation to the earth. That's when Messiah establishes his kingdom, when he has his chosen people sealed. Okay, which is why the 144,000 becomes so important to these last movements. They're the only sign we need to be looking at. Okay. Again, verse 16. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. What does he mean by that? He's talking about the olive tree. Who's that? Verse 17. And if some of the branches were broken off, and thou, I'm speaking to you Gentiles, being a wild olive tree, wert grafted in among them, and with them partakest of the root and fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches. But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. So don't think because you was grafted in that all of a sudden you taken over. Don't think that we need you here. Just like we were saved by the grace and we the bloodline, you saved by grace and you not the bloodline. You saved by grace. But you're not the bloodline. Let's continue now. Verse 19. Thou wilt then say, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. Don't start thinking, I'm going to start my own religion. I'm going to make a white Jesus. I'm going to create my own doctrine. All we need is the New Testament, and we can use Brother Paul's writings to justify our existence. And then we take over. We become spiritual Israel. We're the new Israel. See how far that went, brethren? See how out of control it's gotten? But it's all good. Don't change the truth. It don't change the truth at all. All of that falsehood, no matter how many centuries they push it, doesn't change the truth of the word. Doesn't change it. You understand? Doesn't change it. Let's continue. Verse 21. Here's the lesson. For if Yah spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. See, he's warning the Gentiles. He's saying you are grafted in, you're accepted, but don't think because you're in with the Israelite nation that he can't cut you off, because you're not even a natural branch. He cut off the natural branches to put you in. You're a wild branch, and he put you in. But let's look at verse 23. Verse 22 and 23. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Yah. On them which fell, severity, but toward thee, goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise, thou also shalt be cut off. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Yah is able to graft them in again. For if thou wert cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted in contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted in to their own olive tree? Hebrews were created to become the olive tree. We were created. He brought us forth into existence to be the olive tree. Okay, he brought us forth to be the olive tree. And those of us that have been awakened are completed Hebrews. See, all the bloodline is still a bloodline. Whether they are sellouts, whether they are enemies of Messiah and of the truth, that doesn't change the blood that flows in their veins. They still Hebrews by blood. Okay. But they're cut off, even though they're natural branches. They're cut off, but they can always be brought back to where they were created to be part of the Israelite olive tree. And you who are Gentiles have been grafted into the Israelite olive tree through faith in Messiah. You've been brought into the Hebrew olive tree. You haven't started your own religion called Christianity. You've been brought into the Hebrew olive tree. And just as you've been brought in and you were not part of that olive tree, you were part of a wild olive tree, not the cultivated one of the Hebrews, but he brought you in and made you part of the olive tree. Just so those of us who are bloodline are really built to be naturally part of the olive tree from which we came. Unfortunately, the majority of us are going to reject, and the remnant is going to make up that olive tree. Okay, a remnant is going to make up that olive tree. Romans chapter 11. I'm going to start again at verse 24 and read down. For if thou were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, that ye should be wise in your own conceits. That blindness is in part happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles come in. So the blindness came until the Gentiles reached their fullness. Once the Gentiles reached their fullness, and we're seeing that now. That's what Messiah said too in Luke chapter 21. Luke chapter 21. Luke 21, verse 24. Luke 21, verse 24. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 22. I'm going to read from verse 22 down to verse 24 of Luke chapter 21. We'll come right back to Romans. Luke chapter 21 from 22 to 24. For these, Messiah said, be days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people, talking about the natural born Hebrews. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, just as the prophets foretold. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And as we know from studying prophecy, the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. We're at the end of the Gentile kingdom right now. The kingdom of Babylon is a Gentile kingdom. We're at the end of that kingdom right now. And right now, the Hebrews are being prepared personally by Father Yah, by Messiah, by the angels of Yah. We're being prepared through the Spirit given us by the Father to stand for the new kingdom, to be prepared to stand in Yah's kingdom given to Messiah Yahushua as the world king, the world priest, and the world prophet. And then David in Jerusalem as the king of the capital city. And so we're being prepared. We're at the end, the fulfillment of the Gentiles. And that's what we're seeing right now as we're seeing Gentiles come to this truth. That can only happen by fulfillment of Father's prophecy. And we are awakening to who we are. And so these things are culminating together at the end. because the fullness is just about done. Hold the wind until we have sealed the servants of our Most High in their forehead. And so here we are again, Romans chapter 11, beginning again at verse 25 and going down from verse 25 down to verse 27. Romans 11, 25 to 27. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits. That blindness is in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. Let's prophesy about the bloodline. Praise the Most High. From verse 28 down to verse 31. As concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sakes, but as touching the election, they are beloved for the Father's sakes. For the gifts and calling of Yah are without repentance. For as ye in times past have not believed Yah, yet have now obtained mercy through their unbelief, even so have these also now not believed, that through your mercy they also may obtain mercy. Praise the Most High. Verse 32. For Yah hath concluded them all in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all. Verse 33. Oh, the depth of the fullness, both of the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh. How unsearchable are his judgments, and his ways past finding out. Verses 34 to 36. For who hath known the mind of Yahweh, or who hath been his counselor, or who hath first given to him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again? For of him, and through him, and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever. Amen. Yes, the Father sets up things that come together in multiple dimensions and in multiple ways that we can't even understand until it all comes to pass. He sets up things that solve multiple problems and multiple issues all at once. Praise his name. Praise his name. And so the apostle is writing this. So now he's made his point with regard to the Gentile position in terms of salvation and its relation to the Hebrew position as far as salvation. So he said both of us are saved, Jews and Gentiles, he said. But Hebrews are the natural branches. The original promises belong to them, and the calling is of them. But because of the fall of the Hebrews, the Gentiles have been given by design and by prophecy opportunity to be grafted into the nation of the chosen people. Okay, the nation of the chosen people. You know, and Father already knew this and much more than we even understand that is coming to pass now. So now verse 12 all the way through now, from verse 12, from chapter 12 all the way through to 16, he's going to admonish now the Roman converts and the Hellenistic converts in the walk in the way that they should walk, because now they've been now called into the scattered nation of the righteous ones, which are the bloodline children of Israel. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. And so I hope that you were blessed by our study so far of the epistle of Paul to the Romans. And I hope you understand, by the grace of the Most High and by his Spirit, literally, the errors that have been propagated upon us through white Jesus and white privileged Christianity. And awaken to who you really are according to the word of the Most High. May he bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.